Cool. Thank you everyone for joining Vicky and I to discuss UX design today. We are part of Hack the Future's 2020 fall semester e-board. So I thought we would get started with a frame up of what UX design actually is. As it is a fairly new discipline, it's evolving constantly. So UX design is an empathetic process of creating meaningful and relevant experiences to users. It's very user-centric, and we have to put the user at the heart of every single design and development decision. It's also very emotional because we want to really tease out the experiences and the behaviors of these users. And it's also very multidisciplinary because it lends a lot from disciplines such as computer science, psychology, sociology, and graphic design. And here's a visual to kind of frame that up. User experience is kind of the umbrella to fit under a lot of other design practices, specifically visual design, graphic design, interaction design, which is like haptics, clicking, liking, all those types of interactions, user interface design, as well as content strategy. So here's a brief process of what the life of a UX designer looks like. This is not a linear process. A lot of times it'll go from research to prototyping and then back and forth, but this is kind of a streamlined type of way to get us started thinking. So first, user research focuses on understanding your users, their mental models, their pain points, what makes them think the way they do. And this might be through interviews and talking with them directly one-on-one. It could be through secondary research and reading articles, and it also could be through observations. I remember for one specific class, we had to redesign the grocery store experience. So our professors told us to literally like go to a grocery store and just like take note of what people did. And so we sat there for like 30 minutes just like cataloging, which was pretty creepy, but it gave us a lot of good insights. Next in the process is analysis, which is when we synthesize a lot of those findings from talking to those users, observing them, really engaging in their behaviors to pick out patterns that are specific and ones that we can explore. Next, we'll go into designing, which is when designers typically create some napkin sketches or some quick ideas to identify some of these key issues. Then we'll move into prototyping, which is typically higher fidelity of these sketches, and that will be involving Figma, as we talked about earlier, or other mock-up tools like Adobe Creative Cloud, and also getting into the development side of things. And then lastly, we'll test the process and see if our designs challenge or validate some of the initial questions that we had. And as I discussed earlier, we can go into any different part of this process. It really depends on the project that you're working on and the users that you're designing for. A lot of times designers will take years to research the people that they want to design for, which is pretty cool. But for today, I thought we would focus on the design and prototyping aspect of the process because I think this will be most helpful for your guys' projects. So to frame up some of the design and prototyping, I thought we would go over some basic visual design principles. So Gestalt principles are essential for design, as I talked about, and Gestalt is German for good figure. So we'll see some of the examples here. Specifically, good figure is when objects are grouped together and they tend to be perceived as a single figure. So here's an example. On the left-hand side, we can see the Olympic rings. They are 5 circles, yet we perceive them as one figure. Additionally, on the right-hand side, we can see the outline of 3 different shapes, yet when the outline is taken away, it looks like one figure as well. For similarity, objects tend to be grouped together if they are similar. You can see in the second row how the triangles are grouped together away from the circles because of their shape. And here's an example of some more of those concepts. Figures can be grouped by color or shape or proximity as well. The next principle is closure, which is when the visual connection or continuity is between a set of elements that don't actually touch each other in their composition. So with this example, we can see that the panda is not lined out, but we can infer that it is indeed a panda based on the other shapes. So other things inform the visual design. As well on the right-hand side, we can see that there is a star figure despite having no outline of it because the informing shapes around it. The next principle is proximity, which is when objects tend to be grouped together if they are close to one another. So for this example, we can see that the purple circles are grouped away from the black circles because they are not in close proximity to it. Additionally, the IBM logo, despite it not being closed, we can see that the I is grouped together, the B is grouped together, and the M is grouped together because they are parallel and close to each other. And then continuation is when there's an intersection between two or more objects, and people tend to perceive each object as a single uninterrupted object. So an example of this is on the left-hand side, we perceive the red line to be separate from the black line, despite them being connected through a straight line or a zigzag. And then on the right-hand side with the Coca-Cola logo, where the C crosses into the L, despite them intersecting, we recognize that the C is separate from the L. And so this logo has been explored by a lot of designers because they're like, how does it flow so well? How is it still legible in such a unique font? But it is the continuity principle at play there. And then we also have symmetry, which is when objects tend to be perceived as symmetrical shapes that form around a center. And so we can see on the left-hand side, the logo of McDonald's is symmetrical about the center or about the middle. And then on the right-hand side, symmetrical, if you were to cut it in half, it would be exactly the same as well. So we'll get to a chance to use some of these principles in a little bit. I'm going to pass it on to Vicky to give us a Figma demo to use these principles and see them at play. Awesome. So I can go ahead and stop sharing, and then Vicky, if you want to share the Figma screen.
You guys all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, probably should have showed this in the beginning, but this is basically our agenda for today. So as we just saw, Caitlin talked about UX, the design process and different principles. So I'll be showing you a demo of how Figma works. So first we should probably talk about what exactly is Figma. Figma is a prototyping tool and also a graphics vector tool. And it is used commonly through UX and is becoming a much popular tool, I believe, in the industry. So yeah, it's a very powerful tool also once you learn to use it more. So I guess first we'll talk about layers, which is a really good tool if you know how to use it and what exactly it's doing. So as you see here on the left, this is your layers panel. And basically, you'll see that so how this works is that things are stacked on top of each other. So if we go back to here, you'll see that this white rectangle is stacked on top of this green background, and then the text is on top. So let's say layers are good to manipulate different shapes of what you want on top of other things. So if you so what you could do is you could drag things around. So if I wanted to move this text to behind the rectangle, yeah, you'll see the text is no longer there. So manipulating layers could be very useful in the process of. So another thing that Figma has are what they call frames. So this right here is considered a frame. Frames are basically your workspace. This is where you're going to create your design. It's basically your canvas. If you use Adobe Illustrator, it's basically an artboard, if you've heard of that. But what's really cool about frames in Figma is that you can put frames within frames. So basically an artboard within an artboard. That sometimes becomes useful in your design work. Let me see. And then, yeah, so we'll walk through the different tools that Figma has. So yeah, this is the frames tool. So this is how you can make a new frame. Literally drag, and that's your frame. What's also cool to note in Figma, let me move this, is that when you create a new frame, when you click the frame button, if you are trying to prototype like a certain design for like a phone, a tablet, a laptop, whatever, you could just click here, and then they have like already like preset like templates. So if you wanted like an iPhone 8, and then this next tool is the shape tool. Here you could do a bunch of different shapes from rectangle, circle, different polygons, stars. So, for example, if you want to draw a rectangle, literally just drag and drop it. Here on the right, you can also change the size of it like manually. So if I wanted this to be 400 by 200, you can change the size like that. And then also what's useful here is you can round the corners of it. So let's say I want it to be slightly rounded, put like 10. That the corners of this rectangle are now rounded. You can even round it even more if you want to like 20, it'll become even rounder. Also another useful thing when drawing shapes, that if you, let's say we want to draw a circle, so if I just drag it, you'll see it's not like, it's an oval and not a circle. So if you want it to be a circle, if you hold the shift key, it would be a perfect circle. And then you just release. Um, and then here is the pen tool. Pen tool is it allows you to draw different vector shapes. Point, I can make another point, and that could be curved. And then here, use this and manipulate these points. This will allow it to be straighter or less rounded or curved. So you could really play around with it and have a lot of fun with it. So that's probably one of my favorite tools in Figma. So yeah, so that's basically like vector drawing. And then we have the text box, the text tool. And here we can, you can either click, start typing, or you can make a text box by clicking on the text tool and dragging to create a text box. That. And then also with text, you should probably, I should probably mention on the right here, you could change the font of it. So let's say there's a bunch of different fonts. I don't know. Oh, yeah, that did. So yeah, so you could change the font of it. Size of it. I believe change depending on the font. You could change whether you want it bold or regular. And yeah, you could change spacing and all that fun stuff. And also here on the side, you could also change the color. So if I wanted it to be red, that's how you can change the color of that. So basically on the right is like where you get all your detailed like effects of whatever object you're working with. And then here's the hand tool. This is just to like drag and like look around of what you've done on your workspace. And then also this tool is really useful for comments. So this is like if you're sharing this doc with someone else and you want to make a comment about and then be like, this should be a circle, for example, and then post that comment. And then when other people are looking at this document, they will see those comments and like maybe make edits to it or whatever needs to be done. So that's also very useful. I should probably also talk about like changing colors and stuff like that. So let's say I want this rectangle to be pink or something, uh, you would go to this right panel here, and here you could change the fill color of it. So this could we can make this like a blue square, for example. And then also, if we want like an outline on this box, we could click this stroke. You just click the plus sign, and then here we could do like pink. We could change the outline color. And then also here, you can also make like, we can make this outline color a little thicker. So if I put like 5, it'll be a thick. And then also what's really useful is this dropper tool. So let's say I want to change the color of the circle to be the same blue color. Instead of you trying to type the hex color into here, what you could do is you click the dropper tool and click on the color you want, and it will also change that to be the same color. So it makes it really easy to like get the same color, or if you're trying to like find the color from an image and make that shape that color, it's also very easy to do that. So it's a very useful tool. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions yet about what I'm talking about? Maybe I should check the chat. Okay, I don't see any questions yet, but yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you do have questions. Oh, can layers be separated into different views? What exactly do you mean by different views? Yeah. So one page can definitely have multiple layers. Oh, I think I'm kind of answering your question. So for example, where's this demo page? This is um, like each object itself would be a different layer. And I guess what you're asking is like you have like layers within pages. I believe you can by like having different frames. I think that's, am I answering your question properly? Hello, Vincent? Okay, we could come back to that.
Sorry, it's probably better that I unmute myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. You can totally do that.
Yeah. So because right now it just seems very in my opinion, it looks a little cluttered how we have like all the stuff in like one I guess one list. Is it possible that I can have like different layers for different pages? Like I see that we have one page agenda and one page workspace,
Yeah.
one page demo. Is it possible to like view each one of them separately, I guess? I don't know.
From
I don't know
my
how to.
knowledge, I don't think so. But yeah, but as you see, you can always like collapse it and hide it and stuff. That's like the
Yeah.
best it gets. Yeah, but I think it's, you can't just like grab your demo layer page and just like show just the layers of that. If that
Okay.
makes,
Yeah.
you could like hide stuff. But yeah, generally like your layers page will show everything you have in the document.
Okay. Yeah. I see.
What's been helpful in when you have a lot of assets on one Figma board, on the side where it has like all the assets named, you can change it to like square one or like icon 2 or something like that, and that helps the organization.
Mhm.
But yeah, from
Yeah.
my experience, I think it's typically like chronological the way that they appear, but it can get
Okay.
overwhelming. Definitely.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
if I'm
So like, sorry, you
yeah.
could go.
Oh yeah. So like let's say if I'm creating an app and it has like different pages in the app, I guess I would just rearrange them so like the pages are like side by side or in the same view.
Yeah, you could totally like drag these around just for like your
Hmm.
own organizational purposes. And like Caitlin said, you can edit the names of these. So like for example, I don't
Yeah.
want this ellipse tool 2 anymore, I could call it blue circle, and that just helps with organization a little more.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Also, I should probably mention that here on the left side in your layers panel, you can also lock different items if you like don't want them to move anymore. And you can also, this eye tool will like make it whether you want to view it or not right now. So if I click that, it makes it viewable. If I click it, it's no longer viewable on the document. I should also mention grouping stuff that could be pretty useful sometimes. So if I want to group, grouping is just like combining objects together so that when you move them, you can move them together. So if I want this rectangle and this circle to move together, either right click and do group selection. So as you see, anytime I move it, they'll stay in place together. And it's now like one group selection. And then you can always ungroup it too by right clicking and ungroup. So yeah, that's also pretty useful. We talked about colors. Text we also did talk about. So also the reason Figma is becoming a lot popular, I believe nowadays, is they have really cool that will show you the CSS code for a certain object. So if I want like the CSS of things I've drawn in this document, on the right here, you go to inspect, and here, where is it? Down here, it'll show you this rectangle, for example. Since I clicked on it, it'll show me the CSS for this rectangle. So it'll show like the position, everything on the document, and all the background colors and stuff. So you could literally copy and paste this code into the file that you're, like the HTML file that you're working in, or the CSS file that you're working in. And then I believe also you could click here and you can switch it to iOS or Android, and that will also, they will also show you the code for that. So this makes like people's lives really a lot easier when you're working with the trying to recreate like a website, for example, from a Figma document. And then last thing I want to talk about is some useful keyboard shortcuts, which I put right here. Some useful stuff is if you hold Shift and click, you can select multiple items. So if I blue rectangle and I click on this oval and I'm holding down the Shift key, it'll select both of them at the same time. Or another way you could do that is you could use your mouse and drag. And then something else is if I want to move, let's say I want to move this blue rectangle down below this blue circle, but in a straight line, you could do that by selecting the rectangle, holding the Shift key, and dragging it down. So you'll move it in a straight line down. And then we have making a copy of a selected item. So if I want to make a copy, I don't know if it's different on Mac, but you could hold the Alt key. So I was talking about grouping before. So when you select the items you want to group, you could do Control G. We'll group these items together. You could do Control Shift G, and that will Control Shift G, and that will ungroup these items so you can move them around. those are some useful keyboard shortcuts. There's also more keyboard shortcuts if you click on this question mark and then keyboard shortcuts. And this shows you there's so many different shortcuts that you can use. But this will show you like shortcuts. What's highlighted in blue, from my understanding, is like shortcuts that you've already used. So when you click on this question mark, it'll show you like the ones that are in white or in gray. Those are shortcuts that you haven't used yet, so it allows you to explore keyboard shortcuts. But they have a bunch of different ones that you can always look at here. Yeah, so that's basically all I have for the demo. Does anyone have any other questions? How does one easily focus on a framework layer? Okay, Caitlin answered that. Awesome. Oh, also one more other thing about the power of Figma is that what's really cool is that multiple people can work on the doc at the same time. So you might have seen while I was working that Caitlin was also on here. And so, yeah, there she is. And so both of us could be working on the same doc at the same time. So it's kind of like a shared Google Doc, which makes this really cool and really easy to use between teams. Yeah, there she's typing. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, I think we can move to the demo, not the demo, but we have like a little activity for you guys. Yeah, so the activity we have for you guys is basically recreating popular web pages that we've found. Let's scroll over. Yeah, so you pick any one of these screens to recreate. Board. We made a big artboard that you guys could work on. Oh, I see someone's already on here. Yeah, and so you guys could start recreating over on the right. I believe Caitlin will share the link in the chat so you guys can look at it. But yeah, so we have like a Netflix. We try to choose like simple ones. You don't have to do every aspect of this screenshot, but like just like you could do like the main stuff so we can get an idea for it. This will allow you guys to be more familiar with Figma and get used to the different tools that they have. So yeah, so this is the Netflix page, and then we have creating a post page, and then we have Google. So yeah, and if you guys have any questions while you're working, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or ask in the chat.
And then if there's any websites that you guys particularly like or you're interested in, feel free to design that as well. These are just some examples that we could go off of. So.
Do you guys have any examples of cool design things that you worked on in the past that you want to show off?
I'm gonna try and find an example of like the layers that Vincent was talking about and how to organize some of those best. I think that might be helpful.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm trying to think of like stuff I have on Figma that I can show, but I think stuff I have on Figma is stuff I can't show at the moment.
Oh, we can also talk about the resources on the first page,
Yeah.
on the green page. So there's a lot of yeah, a lot of websites that help a lot of designers like create their visions. So specifically, some color palette websites we've linked here. For some reason, Figma doesn't let you like click and then link to it. You have to like copy it in your browser. But yeah, some of these websites that we've shown, they have the ability to generate color palettes based on a few colors that you have in mind, and that helps sort of create a consistent theme throughout your design. So I think Chroma, which is the first website, it's really cool. It lets you pick like 50 different colors and it'll generate, I think, like a bunch of different palettes based on the colors that you pick. Yeah, I think it loads. It takes a little bit of time to load too because there's so many colors. But yeah, if you go ahead and get started. Yeah, we probably won't pick all 50, but it comes up with so many different options based on some similarities, which is pretty cool. Another good website is flaticon.com, which if you guys scroll over to the Facebook screen that we posted in the activity section, a lot of these icons here at the bottom, like the images, the people, the smiley face, location, things like that, these are all icons that either Facebook designers have created themselves or they've gotten from an icon website. So a lot of these icon websites will have images downloaded that you can change the color, change the sizing, and add them to your design library to make sure that it's consistent with what you want to present. They probably designed them themselves at Facebook though, because everything is in-house there. But yeah, that's another good resource.
Is there anything else you guys want to show before I end the recording? And then we can just work on the activity.
How can you easily edit multiple items at the same time? Because like, for example, I'm creating the Netflix screen, and oh wait, never mind. I wanted to set the width for all of them, and I realized I could do that on the sidebar.
Yeah. So if you just
Yeah.
all of them, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, clicking and then shift clicking to select multiple. Cool. But I think that's pretty much all we have.
We could probably link these resources after this presentation.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. I'll just end the recording now and then we can continue working on the activity.
Yeah, sounds good.